Good morning. Globally, the dominant development is the escalating conflict involving Iran, Israel, and the United States, and the growing risk of spillover across the Middle East. The Financial Times reports President Trump has vowed to hit Iran hard after Israel launched a wave of air attacks, while Iran's army says it will continue targeting U.S. and Israeli military sites. Iran has also warned it could strike U.S. bases across the region, even as President Masoud Pezeshkian signaled Tehran would stop attacks on Gulf neighbors. The FT's assessment is that U.S. allies in the Arab world are being pulled into a conflict they did not choose, and markets are now focused on whether this becomes a sustained regional war. The global economy angle is energy. The FT is asking whether a nightmare scenario for global energy is emerging, even in a world with more diversified oil and gas supply than past crises. The immediate watchpoints are any disruption to shipping routes, damage to export infrastructure, or a broader escalation that lifts risk premiums and feeds into inflation expectations. On the human impact, the BBC reports on what ordinary Iranians are saying after a week of war, while Al Jazeera reports Palestinians in Gaza describing the effects of the Rafah crossing closure on families and access to movement and supplies. Separately, SBS reports Australians are continuing to leave the Middle East by unconventional routes, including paying thousands to travel by taxi, reflecting the uncertainty and limited commercial options. In another significant conflict development, the BBC reports Ukraine is deploying armed robots on the battlefield, a clear marker of the technological revolution reaching frontline combat. It's a reminder that artificial intelligence and autonomy are not only economic forces, but are rapidly changing military capability, procurement, and doctrine. Also overnight, SBS reports Israel is accused of targeting UN peacekeepers after 3 were injured in a strike in southern Lebanon, with Ghana's military saying its UNIFIL battalion headquarters came under 2 missile attacks. And SBS reports Russia has returned to the Paralympic Games, prompting a boycott of the opening ceremony by 16 countries, led by Ukraine calling it a principled decision. Turning to Australia, domestic politics has a notable result in the Northern Territory. ABC reports Labor is on track to win the Nightcliff by-election, taking the Greens' first and only seat in the NT Parliament. In federal politics, ABC reports agricultural businessman David Farley has won One Nation for selection to contest the Farah by-election, setting up a clearer right-of-centre challenge in that contest. On Australia's intersection with the Iran conflict, ABC reports the Iranian women's football team is effectively stranded between returning home and potential punishment for a silent protest, or staying in Australia with fears their families could face retribution. It's a developing consular and humanitarian issue that may draw further attention from government and sporting bodies. In the region, ABC reports a major political shift in Nepal, where rapper-turned politician Bailan Shah has defeated a former prime minister in a historic election, with his Rastriya Swatantra party set to win a commanding share of seats, displacing traditional heavyweights. On markets and the Australian economy, the key near-term driver remains global. Any sustained rise in oil prices would flow into fuel costs and inflation, complicating the outlook for rates and household budgets. No specific new Australian share market move is reported in today's material, but energy-sensitive sectors and travel-exposed stocks are likely to remain reactive to Middle East headlines. That's the latest on the major developments to start the day.